You've probably noticed something weird if you've ever been to Japan. American cars are almost nowhere to be seen. Toyota, Honda, Nissan, everywhere. But Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, good luck spotting one. So, what's going on down there? Why aren't American cars popular in Japan? We're going to be breaking it down. Japan is the third largest auto market in the world, but American brands barely make a dent. In 2022, US automakers sold fewer than 15,000 vehicles in Japan out of over 4 million total sales. That's less than 0.4% of the market. There are real reasons for this, and they're not just about brand loyalty. If you're into cars or just curious about how global markets work, hit subscribe. Now, we're going to take a look at our feature, the courtesy of NHK World Japan. Take a look at this.
The auto sector has been a focal point in the tariff negotiations. Trump criticized how few American cars are on Japanese roads, citing safety standards. But some say that's not the only issue.
This company, north of Tokyo, specializes in imported cars. It brings in around 100 American vehicles every year. Because the safety standards are different, the cars need to be retrofitted before they're sold. For example, the blinkers need to be orange. Cars in Japan also undergo different safety tests. This one evaluates the impact an accident could have on a pedestrian, specifically their head. Over 61 countries and territories have a similar test. As a result, some American cars need to have their parts remodeled.
Remodeling work takes time and labor.
But that's not the only reason American cars aren't popular. One expert says, U.S. automakers have failed to meet the needs of the Japanese market.
Many U.S. cars are bulky and are not fit for Japanese roads. Fuel efficiency is also a major factor.
It makes the vehicles unappealing to drivers who want to be able to drive in their own neighborhoods. Some brands have already pivoted their approach. If you look at imported car brands by sales, Jeep is the only American brand in the top 10. The cars are tailored to Japan's needs before being shipped over. As a result, customers don't have to deal with retrofitting. They only need to register the car before hitting the road.
Japanese roads are narrow, parking spaces are tight, and cities are crowded. So American cars, especially trucks and SUVs, are just too big for the road. A full-size pickup like the Ford F-150 is over 5.9 meters long and 2 meters wide. In Tokyo, that's just a nightmare. Most Japanese buyers prefer compact cars like Toyota Corolla or the Honda Fit, which are small, efficient, and easy to maneuver. Americans, by the way, especially in Texas, they have their slogan swinging proudly saying that everything is big in Texas. That's just one of their slogans. But one thing with the Japanese, they take everything into consideration, especially when it comes down to research and development. So they will analyze everything to death. And Jeep knows exactly that. And part of the reasons why I moved away from the automotive dealership environment, we're very reactive in terms of how to get into particular markets. And this is one of them. We had years of capability, try to understand different countries and different culture, and yet we still keep falling behind.
Some models are also smaller than their American counterparts, making them easier to drive in Japan.
Large cars aren't ideal when there are other vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians sharing the road. We sell American cars to Japanese customers who want a safer version of the US model.
For more on this, earlier I spoke with NHK World. He's been looking into the situation on Japan's roads. Trump claims Japan doesn't buy enough American cars. So what are the numbers?
Right. The Japan Automobile Importers Association says about 230,000 foreign cars were imported and sold last year. But that's cars from around the world. If you only talk about cars from America, American cars only accounted for 16,000 units. Most imported car sales come from German brands. As you can see, Mercedes-Benz sold the most, topping 53,000 units, and BMW and Volkswagen were close behind. As we mentioned earlier, Jeep is...
Let me pause right there as we look at this chart, because you're looking at the European brands right here, which are very popular in Japan. And one thing you have to take in consideration, which I'm going to repeat, in terms of the steering wheel placement, Japan drives on the left. American cars are built for right-hand drive markets. But US automakers don't always prioritize making left-hand drive versions. Even when they do, Japanese buyers are very wary. And most European models, as you're seeing here, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, Audi, Mini, they are built for the right-hand drive market. So in the Japanese market, switching brands will actually feel unnatural. And in Europe, believe it or not, the two most popular Japanese brands are actually Subaru and Lexus, and Toyota to some extent.
It's the best-selling US brand among foreign automakers. It's ranked 7th with around 9,000 vehicles sold. As for other US companies like Chevrolet, Cadillac, and Ford, they each sold a couple hundred units each. Overall, they're a small percentage of the Japanese market. But that wasn't always the case. Back in 1995, US cars were about 40% of all imported car sales in Japan. But 30 years later, that's down to less than 5%. It's at the point where in 2016, Ford withdrew its business from Japan entirely, despite operating here for decades.
One of Trump's claim has gotten a lot of
because Ford actually moved away from the small car segment. I believe the Fiesta was the smallest car they had, and then there was the Taurus and the Impala amongst other larger vehicles. Ford decided to concentrate on the pickup and SUV line because they had a larger share of the market in North America.
the bowling ball test. Can you tell us about that?
Right. So Japan's transport ministry says there's no such thing as a bowling ball test.
Yes.
Right. What he's probably thinking of is that pedestrian crash test that we mentioned before. And I think it is actually a really good example of how the two countries approach safety differently. Japan is testing for the safety of the person hit by the car. Officials say a vehicle can pass the test even if the hood dents. In fact, they say that might be a good thing. If the hood can absorb the shock without hurting the people inside, all the better. But again, the test is seeing how safe it is for those outside the car. And U.S. safety standards.
And here's another reason why even Tesla is getting pushback from a number of countries across the world. Because the Cybertruck is built with very sharp edges. In case of an impact with a pedestrian, it won't end well for that pedestrian out there. As you can see, the Japanese are actually taking the time out to ensure that safety is included all around for both pedestrians and the drivers and passengers to some extent.
However, focus on the driver's well-being, and that's because their roads are wider than ours, and outside of major cities, you don't see very many people walking on the road.
No, which is a big difference. Actually, I learned to drive in California.
Right.
So when I came back to Japan, it was so difficult to deal with the Japanese narrow streets.
Yeah, that's right. Right?
Yeah.
Experts say that is why American cars are not really fit for the Japanese market. And I wanted to see it for myself, so I spent this morning out in Tokyo's.
Another thing why Ford may be pulled out. Gas is expensive in Japan, around $1.50 per liter. American V8s and large engines, they don't actually make sense when smaller turbocharged or hybrid options are available in Japan. And Japan also has strict emission standards. Many US models don't meet them without costly modifications. Another thing is brand perception. Japanese buyers trust domestic brands. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan have built reputation for reliability over the decades. And American cars, not so much. Surveys actually show Japanese consumers see US brands as less dependable, even if it's not always true. Let's continue.
The street is busy with pedestrians and cars. As you can see, the roads are pretty small. It can be tricky for cars just to get by each other. And I want to make it clear, this is a really normal neighborhood. Cities and towns across the country have streets just like these. Even the more compact Japanese cars can have trouble. So you can imagine what it would be like for a bigger vehicle. Driving isn't the only issue though. I actually found a Ford and a Jeep in a parking lot. But the cars are so big, they're sticking out of the parking space. So even storing an American car comes with issues. I happened to run into an American tourist. He gave me his 2 cents on why US cars are built that way.
America, our roads are bigger, our country is bigger, so we just have more, our parking lots are bigger, so our cars can be bigger.
But ultimately, size isn't the only reason why American cars are not popular here. We mentioned fuel efficiency, right? And that's obviously a huge factor. But German automakers were also very quick to meet the market's needs. For example, think of where the driver's side is. If you need to get into a parking lot, for example, the ticket machine will be on the right, because that's where Japanese cars have the steering wheel. But many American brands have it on the left. That puts people off. German brands, though, were quick to make right-side vehicles. If American brands don't take steps like that, then experts say it will be hard to attract Japanese drivers.
And that's one of the reasons why the new car industry in the automotive sector is kind of struggling. The lack of foresight to get into particular markets. One of the things we have to take into consideration again is the lack of marketing and dealership networks. Ford used to have a presence in Japan but pulled out in 2016, as he mentioned. GM sells some other models under Chevrolet, but dealerships are rare. And without local marketing or easy access to service, buyers won't bother. Then there are the cultural preferences. Japanese car buyers, they actually value simplicity. Flashy designs, loud exhausts, and oversized grills, common in American cars, just don't appeal to them. Understated functional design actually wins in their markets. Then there are the price and taxes. Importing an American car into Japan means hefty taxes and fees. A $30,000 Mustang can end up costing over $45,000 after tariffs and shipping. For that price, buyers could actually get a Lexus or a high-end domestic model. So why aren't American cars popular in Japan? It's a mix of practicality, culture, and economics. Unless US automakers adapt, smaller cars, better efficiency, right-hand drive, they'll keep struggling there. If you found this topic interesting, drop a like and let me know what topic to cover next. I will see you in the next one.